Welcome to Ludus Vulpes. My name's Kirsty.
I'm Phil.
My name's Matt.
From Board Game Pix. Check out his channel.
Thanks, Phil.
Today, you join us as we run through our most anticipated games that are being released in 2022.
Caveat, we hope being released in 2022.
So we've just quickly run through how we've got our list, guys.
Yes.
How did you do yours, Phil?
So I printed off the list of every game being released in the year and threw pebbles at it to see
Right.
where
The pebble
it stood.
method.
Wow,
That's
that's
interesting.
interesting.
Yeah.
I think Board Game Geek has a wonderful feature that allows you to filter by year of release. So I set that for 2022 and then trawl through what can only be described as quite a long list. And I started on the very unscientific approach of, does it catch my eye? Or is it by a designer that catches my eye, or a publisher that catches my eye? Created a long list and then filtered from there. So that was my approach. Kirsty.
Okay. So mine was, I went through the caveat of excluding any expansions to the list, which reduced it from 26 pages, I think, down to 18. And then I literally painstakingly went through every single game to see if it attracted my attention. And my list has gradually gone down from about 36 to 28 to 24, 14, and then finally my 10 with some honourable mentions that I will go into.
It's
How about you, Matt?
very invaluable, that BGG tool for looking.
Oh, yes.
Over 20 pages of games. I think I said to Phil earlier in the week it took about 6 or 7 hours to go through all of it. And we should say we take it really seriously.
Yeah.
You're putting your faith in us to point out some exceptional new games for 2022, and we think that we've nailed it, hopefully.
I think so.
I don't think I've nailed it. However, I think I've got some games that I'm looking forward to. But based on my Essen list, I'd say that's not always the most reliable.
I don't know.
No, that's
Well, I'll take a bit of credit for the Essen list. I called Ark Nova.
Yeah, you did.
So,
You did.
I called
that
Ark
seems to be
Nova.
getting a little bit of buzz at the minute.
A little bit.
Yeah, I think yours was, well, sorry, was it Boom?
Sure.
Was it? So, yeah. Should we just leave that one there?
Disaster.
Anyway, so that was how we got to the list. Anything else anyone wants to? Because I've got my list here, my 10 here. It's like 3 pages of information, but these two have brought like literal truckloads.
It's 4 pages.
I had to refill my printer tray to finish my list.
They would also like to talk to you about their honourable mentions.
Yes.
I have decided to keep my contribution short and concise as always. I don't talk too much. I don't waffle too much.
Of course.
He says.
So, would you like to go through your honourable mentions?
That would be great. And I did spend probably too much time on this because I excluded games that were coming to Kickstarter thinking not everyone's got access or everyone knows about it. But it made it so difficult for myself. And I would never ever do it again. Because what happens is retailers, when they're releasing a game, they only put the information on a month before. Whereas Kickstarters, they're putting it up now for 6 months' time. So you tend to find that anything that's anticipated tends to be leaning towards a Kickstarter. And it was very difficult to narrow it down. I also didn't go with any expansions, just because I did find that there were some really quality expansions coming out this year, like excellent ones, which was really nice to see. And that leads me to a trend that I saw. I thought there were some really good trends for new games that were coming out. Kickstarter is really prevalent in the next 12 months. Crowdfunding isn't going to go away anywhere.
It's here to stay.
So it seems to be as popular as ever, and more people adopting it. Though, if it's a good game, I should imagine it'll end up at retail anyway.
Yeah, I found when I put my list together, there's a real weird, strange combination of games that are coming to Kickstarter early in the year, but also games that are hitting retail from Kickstarter. So I've got some of those on my list as well. How about reprints? Because there's a couple of reprints coming this year that are looking seriously good. So I don't know if you managed to sneak those onto lists.
I didn't put any. I've put it leads into my number 10 is sort of a reprint. It's one that was at Kickstarter, but it's come to retail, so everyone will have access to it.
Cool. That's interesting.
Which I thought was important, everyone having the access. And the other trend I've noticed is that the games aren't coming to the country, the UK or America, for up to a year after Essen.
Yeah.
So by actually going to Essen, you are at this point in time accessing a lot of games that the rest of the world aren't accessing, so people can't get the games. I messaged Arcane Wonders for the new mobile phone game for smartphone, and they said it's not coming out in the UK until after Gen Con, which I think is like August.
And
now it'll take another month or two to get here, so that's a whole year before you could have bought it at Essen to bring it back here.
There's definitely top tip from Matt there: go to Essen.
Yes, we'll see you there.
We'll see you there.
But be prepared to have a lighter wallet and a heavier case by the end of it.
Take extra baggage. You will need it.
Soft shoes.
Soft shoes. So would you? So what was on your honourable mentions?
Do you want to go first, ladies? First.
Okay, that's fine. Yep. Talking of reprints, so basically, Lagrange's was on my honourable mentions, basically because I'm trying to keep this list to new games as opposed to any reprints or redevelopments. I saw this one at Essen and I saw the prototype of it and it looked amazing, and there's nothing wrong with the game. I'm very excited about the game. I wanted to give new games a chance for this list.
We did see that sort
it looked
it was
amazing.
A pre-production demo copy at Essen, and the quality was staggering.
It was.
Well, it's board and dice, and I know they do occasional Kickstarter or crowdfunding. I think it might be a Game Found, but they do seem to use both methods of going straight to retail. Maybe it's because it's deluxe version. It might be something that they're doing.
Well, they've had a few more designers working on it this time. They've had Stefan Feld working on it.
That'd be good.
Amongst many others, who I could continue like a big list of 6 to 8
There's
names.
A few more modules, isn't there?
Yes, very much so. Another reprint, which is sort of reprint, but it is a revamp that was actually on my Essen 2021 list. Was Fjords, and I love the artwork in this game, and I think it looks like a beautiful game, and there's literally, like, I still haven't got a copy of it yet. They've kept traditional with the original design by Franz Benno de Long. The artwork's all been redone by Bess Sobel, and there's been some new additional gameplay added by Phil Walker Harding, which I'm really interested.
Anything he does, everything he touches is gold. Really,
very much so.
Reliable.
Yeah, definitely.
So I was unable to get it at the event at Essen, and I still haven't got my hands on it as yet, but as I've kept true to myself, and I haven't put it on this list because I wanted to keep it to newer games as opposed to remakes and reprints. So that is one of my honourable mentions. Another one, which I absolutely adore the artwork for, I love the theme of it, is Luna Maris. And this one is designed by Ricardo Amrell and being produced by Meeple BR. Now, the colours in this, the mechanisms in this game are just very cosmic, and I love the like Aurora themed colours. And it's such a beautiful game. However, at the moment, the unfortunate limitation for me is it's not yet in English. So there are cards in there which, unless I start to learn a lot of Spanish very soon, I'm not going to be able to understand it. So I'm anticipating that one being released in I should just learn the language, but I'm being lazy. So unfortunately that one wasn't on my list because I wouldn't understand that. But
I love the new challenge of learn a language just to play
for
a game.
Exactly. And then 3 more on my honourable mentions, which were Buru and the Buru Ambalo expansion, which is produced by Crafty Games. Now this one, the imagery on this was beautiful. The colours, the component pieces, it's a stunning piece of artwork. And it's very tribal, and you're moving around the board and you're collecting resources, and you're like making what's the word, to the gods. You're giving.
Yeah, it's also had a really good write-up, Kirsty, but from the last time it came out, it's been that much of a success. They've done the expansion for it, but it was on a lot of top 10 lists. So I've heard it's really good.
It just missed out. Others picked ahead of it, and it was one of those that I was so intrigued by the artwork, but it's a slightly lighter game than what I was looking for. And then another one, which I was really surprised by this one. So this one is Taiwakanuku, which was formerly Pasha Mama. And this is by Sit Down Games. Now, this one, you are farmers who need to respect the rules of the Earth Goddess Pasha Mama. It's for 1 to 4 players, 30 to 60 minutes. And it's a beautiful game, and I was really intrigued by this one because the artwork is stunning, I'm sure, as you can see above. However, the first Kickstarter didn't fund, so they took it down, they renamed it, and they put it back on. And for me, I've got a few mixed feelings with that.
There's a question mark on that not funding.
Is everything else the same, do you know?
It looks very... There are changes that have taken place, slight game change plays, but even the artwork is exactly the same with just a different name on the box.
I think it's worth just saying that we don't actually know the reasons the first Kickstarter didn't fund. No. It was taken down before before the campaign ended, so there could be other reasons rather than it not going to fund. So
it's not. That's not my reason. It's beautiful, and some of the artwork was amazing. And I know that you should never judge a book by its cover, but some of the artwork and the imagery that is being shown at the moment, there were other games that just pipped ahead for me. And because of that, it unfortunately didn't make my top 10.
It was close, but no cigar.
It was very close.
Yes.
And then the other one, which I've been really toying with whether this should make it, whether I should knock one of the others off or not, and that is Paint the Roses, which is by North Star Games. Now, anyone who's been keeping an eye on Kickstarter knows that is being one that's just blown.
Yeah,
you know,
popular, that was.
Really, really blown crazy out of proportion. Not quite like Dog Lovers, but you know.
Dog Park,
sorry. And this is a Alice in Wonderland themed puzzly deduction game. And it's really, really thinky. And I was really toying with it, whether it sits on, because it looks beautiful. The artwork is stunning. And it is a deduction game. So each player is playing to a particular rule, but nobody knows what the rules are. You have to try and guess them.
Right, okay.
And you're following different patterns. And honestly, it's really, I'm in an iron whether it should have gone on my list now.
It sounds like Advanced Mastermind, to be fair.
Yes, sort of, but very pretty artwork. But it looked really nice, and it's really, really thinky. But there was just something about it which I just thought, it's not going to make the list, but I'm probably more likely to pick up a copy anyway when it comes.
Yeah. Well, I think sometimes it's nice to get a review under your belt and see what other people think, and then see if you want to spend your money.
So that was my honourable mentions.
Excellent. I've got a couple. One of the ones I was interested in letting everyone know about was a game called Tiletum. It's the new game by Simone Luciani and Daniel Tascini, who have done many, many Euro games together. I think, what's the game with the big wheel in the middle? Zolkin. They did Zolkin, I think. Yeah. And maybe Marco Polo too. And this one's about merchants travelling across Europe. So classic Euro fare. But there's no image on Board Game Geek. Someone's taken the time to do a write-up. So I've tried to pick games where there's an image that we can show to everybody. Woodcraft is the new game coming from Vladimir Suki in 2022. Should be an Essen release. I follow them on social media.
That'll be coming back with us.
Yeah, they seem to be doing a really nice job, and I suspect it'll be a strong mechanism game.
Our last two delicious games in Praga and
the
Messina
big quality,
were just
nice,
really great.
Yeah,
there's a big Kickstarter a few years ago for a game called Museum with Vincent Dutrait artwork. They're doing a big box version this year. And it's about putting artwork into your museum and curating, and we can trade pieces between ourselves. So I thought that looks really good. I didn't take the plunge last time, but I'm considering it this time.
Okay.
Also, Horseless Carriage by Splotter has already been announced.
Okay. Yeah.
They don't do that many brand new games, so it'll be interesting to see what Horseless Carriage is about.
And interestingly enough, nothing other than the title has been announced.
Yeah, it's something to do with early automotive industry, and that's as much as we know, really.
The forums are not happy that Splotter aren't releasing a rule book or some more about the game.
Hint of artwork.
I think there's a couple of months till it comes, but that's in the throes, I think. And the last one for me was Factory 42, which was on my list from last year.
That was in your Essen list.
Yeah.
Is that the one with the components that degrade?
No,
it's corrosion.
it was the Marxist dwarfs.
Oh yes, that's the one. That's the
dwarfs.
one. That's the one.
And you're
Everyone needs Marxist dwarfs in their lives.
and you're running a factory. The initial version that we were looking at last year, there was a few component and graphic design issues. So they've actually launched a new Kickstarter tomorrow with upgraded components. It's had a lot of good feedback from the community. So I think that's a game fan project if anyone's interested in backing that.
Are you backing it, Matt? Or are you going to wait?
I may do a little cheeky back on that one. So we'll see. But yeah, those are my honourable mentions.
Nice.
So you're getting a lot of games today, for sure.
So, do we want to go into our top 10s?
I think we do.
Okay. So, starting at number 10. So my number 10 is Solar 175, and it's a Euro-style legacy experience for 1 to 5 players. It's a dystopian sci-fi, and you'll see sci-fi being a common theme throughout my list. There's a lot of sci-fi happening at the moment. For those of you who like sci-fi, there's a lot of good sci-fi games coming out this year. So this one has worker placement. It has different worker types that can complete different worker and action spaces, so that's always interesting. And it claims to have an innovative scoring system depending on how players have interacted with the game during gameplay, whether that's objective cards or actually something really unique where actually the scoring fundamentally changes depending on what's happened in the game. That could, in my head, and this is why it sits at number 10, because in my head ultimately you've got either that could be great and that could produce some really exciting games where you have enough visibility of what's going to be happening in the future to understand what the scoring mechanisms are going to be at the end of the game, or it could just be a hot mess.
Well, yeah, how do you work out what you're playing towards?
Exactly.
So how do you?
Yeah.
What strategy do you?
Yeah. Can you set a win condition? Can you start to understand what victory means in the game, where the scoring changes depending on what's happened in the game? And there's a lot of questions there. And for me, it was really interesting, the idea of I really like. So I like Raiders of the North Sea, where you've got different workers doing different things.
Yeah.
Sorry, go on.
Sorry, I just triggered Kirsty.
You think that's a good thing?
I think it's a good thing. But that idea of having, and there's a few other games that do it, but having workers that are different workers with different workspaces and managing those as part of a resource management experience, I think is fantastic. So, Solar 175, due to come out this year. For me, it looks interesting, but it also could be a bottomless pit of disaster. So, fingers crossed it works out, and that involved and unusual scoring mechanism is something that we really want to see and like to see more of. So fingers crossed on that one. That's my number 10, Solar 175.
It's getting a lot of buzz on social media at the moment. I think it's only a few days away from launching potentially. So it's something to look out for.
Very much coming to.
Yeah.
Just very quick. You just reminded me of my last honourable mention that I forgot to say. I'm so sorry. Which was Hijacked, which is designed by Christian van Dijk, and it's the artwork by Mihailo Dimitrievski.
We
I think I probably
apologise.
spelled that completely wrong. But who? And it's the artist who did all the West Kingdom trilogy and the North Sea trilogy, etc. for Garfield games. So
the Miko. That's his nickname. Miko.
Him. And basically, in that game, you are a negotiator trying to save passengers from a hijacked plane. Which is a bit...
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. And so basically, I really liked the cover work for this game, and the board looked really intriguing, and the artwork obviously is very catchy and instantaneously recognisable.
Yeah, distinctive.
Yeah. However, I was just a bit, oh my gosh, on the theme. So it's definitely one I'm going to keep an eye on to see how that progresses.
Do you think, Phil, we'll get through a top 10 list where Kirsty doesn't do a 2 for 1?
That's not a 2 for 1. That was my honourable mention.
That
That was an honourable mention.
No, we've started the top 10 now.
You'll always get more games for your money at Ludus Vulpes. Kirsty, your number
Shall
10.
I do my number 10?
Yeah, that'd be lovely.
Okay, so my number 10, it comes from Mosaic Games, and it is Connecting Flights.
Wow.
Now, Connecting Flights is one that I kept an eye on from pre-Kickstarter, and have just been very interesting in how this game plays. Now, it's very interesting because the way in which you create your boards is that you're placing cards, which doesn't seem that strange, but your cards are creating the flight.
Right.
So you need to go from airport to airport, you need to have the specific amount of fuel, you need to be able to have the certain passengers that match the different
Routes, I suppose.
routes and classes. And everything has to match perfectly, but on the actual cards, as you can probably see from above, the lines have to match on the cards as well.
Okay.
So there's literally like a flight path that you have to match along the cards, and it's such an interesting little mechanism, and I'm really intrigued by it. It's their first game, so it's very exciting, and it's artwork by Douglas Duarte and James Churchill, and it's designed by Rafa Dawid. So I'm really, really interested to see how that goes, and basically the entire purpose of the game is to optimise your flights to be the most profitable airline.
You like a bit of route building, don't you?
I do,
Some of your
I do.
games seem to like that. Yeah, sounds really good.
Yeah, I'm really intrigued to know how that's going to go, because the interconnection to create the board, for me, it's something I haven't really seen before, I don't think. So I'm really excited to see where that goes.
Excellent.
You want
Right then, number 10 for
time to get
me
serious.
is it came out on Kickstarter. I didn't really pay that much attention to it, and the reason why I didn't pay attention to it, Phil, it's really shallow. Do you want to know the reason why?
Was there no pictures?
It doesn't have a map. There's no board.
Really?
There's no like epic anything to watch.
It's quite shallow.
It's Dwellings of Eldervale, and it's been in so many top tens, and the producers of that game have said that they're going to go to retail, and you can buy the legendary box from retail now.
Okay.
That's something that I'm interested in obtaining, and hopefully other people would be interested as well. It's got area majority, dice rolling, hand management, modular board, worker placement, different worker types. Maybe that's a theme this year. Different workers.
Sounds like it.
And a little bit of a brief description is that it blends worker placement, area control, engine building, unique workers units. Players take turns placing a worker in Eldervale or regrouping and activating their tableau and adventure cards. So it sounds like you get to build up a little bit of actions. Action spaces include realms, key to a power, summoning portals, ancient mills, lost fortresses, deep dungeons. So all the fantasy stuff that we like. But yeah, sounds really good. I've watched a bit of a playthrough, and
there has been over the last 6 months or so some real buzz about the people who received their Kickstarter. It's appeared to be incredibly popular. Do you know what put me off? The box art.
Oh really?
I think it sucks. Absolutely awful.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because I happen to know they paid someone on Fiverr to do it.
Oh really?
Yeah, so it was a freelance artist just got this gig, and he's obviously advertising that this is his
thing. Yeah.
It's very sci-fi.
It's very fantasy.
Fantasy.
And for me, it just looked like another dungeon crawler just on the box art, and I didn't think of it as being anything more than a dungeon crawler. And I would have paid a lot more attention to it. It shows how shallow I am. If the box art don't work for me, I ain't
it's
going
even more shallow. It's right.
But there's a truth to that as well, and I think
it's an appeal factor, isn't it?
Yeah.
Certainly.
And actually, since people have received their Kickstarters, I've looked at it and gone, should have backed it. But I couldn't get past the box art. I just looked at the box art and went, that's just another dungeon crawler, without even reading the mechanics or anything else about the game. And maybe it's one of those things where you can put people off.
Yeah, you've got to decide, what you're going to back and what you're going to spend your money on. It's definitely a factor of that, certainly, I would say. So that's my number 10, Dwellings of Eldervale.
When you buy it, I'll happily play it. Okay, so we're moving on to our number 9. 9. Okay, so here goes my opportunity to massacre and butcher pronunciations. So my number 9 is Karigar-e-Taj, which is a game about building the Taj Mahal, from designer Amit Gaj and from Dice Toy Labs. So this is So what I've seen so far of this, there's definitely some of that feel of Red Cathedral about it, where you're shopping for resources. The mechanism's slightly different. They've got a big market, and that market constantly evolves and constantly changes. Yes. The worker placement to gather resources and to do work on the Taj Mahal looks interesting and limited. And the game ends when the Taj Mahal is built, which is nice. And with some, so it looks like an intriguing little game. Hopefully we'll be able to pick up a copy of it. But it certainly piqued my interest. The box art is, I think, glorious. Sort of like the Taj Mahal at sunset kind of feel.
Or is it some lights?
Maybe some lights. But it's just
comment below if you know.
It's just nice where you've got that kind of worker placement, tile placement, and just that. I like that feel of that growth in a game. So I'm really hoping, and I kind of like the sort of ancient history sort of stuff and things that have got like a little bit of grounding there. So really looking forward to seeing how that works. So that's Karigar-e-Taj, the building of the Taj. I think it might be categorised as the architects of the Taj Mahal or something like that.
Very cool.
But you are an architect of the Taj Mahal.
I've seen the artwork on that one. It does look beautiful. So when you get that, I'll play.
Okay, cool.
Happily. So moving on to my number 9 is a game called Fire and Stone, being created by Pegasus Spiel, well, produced by Pegasus Spiel, and designed by Klaus-Jürgen Vogt. I've probably spelled that wrong. And the artwork is by Hendrik Noack. So this one is a game whereby you are scouting new lands, harvesting nuts and mushrooms and other bountiful from the land, and then you finally get to build villages. Now this looked very, at the start I was like, I'm not sure, might be a bit simple, and then I watched a few videos on it and actually I was like, I really like this game.
Sometimes the simplicity of a game that can give that depth it's a pleasure to play, isn't it?
Yeah, very much so. And so what really caught me was the multiple layers in which you can, like, of gameplay there is built in. So you can use resources for one purpose, but then if you've got something else alongside it, you can use it for another purpose. Something a bit like animals grazing the land, but then if you put the animals next to a fire, you can then
cook them,
and then use their skin to wear as clothing, which is disgusting. I'm sorry for those
who
don't
fire
like
and
vegetarian.
stone, I suppose.
It is like dated back to Stone Age, so yeah, sorry, vegans, vegetarians, etc. But I really like the idea of you being able to use resources for different purposes depending on what you've managed to hunt and gather.
Unique. You normally resources building something or
a wood is a bit of wood. Whereas this, you can use it to build something, or you can use it to burn, or you can use it, depending on the other aspects that you've managed to collect throughout the game. So I really, really like this one, and it looks like a lot of fun, and it looks like it's got a lot of replayability. So I'm looking forward to that.
It's a shared map as well, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
So it's nice to have that. And also, if you feel like you recognise the designer's name, Carcassonne.
Yes.
That did all right. Mm-hmm. Not bad.
So something to do with tiles, I think.
So it's certainly a designer. Klaus is certainly a designer with some pedigree. So
so that's my number 9.
Excellent. Number 9 for me is a game called Get On Board.
Kirsty's getting very excited.
Okay, that's good to know. Well, Get On Board is a reworking of a game called Let's Make a Bus Route from Japan, and it's a shared board where we all get a card and we're drawing a route. So the three of us would be drawing a route around a city. Just looks intriguing. I've not seen that as a mechanism before. It's by Sashi, who are famous for doing lots of unique, cool themed games. One about getting into an elevator, one about going on a trip or something. They've done some crazy themes, but they all apparently are well received. So it says network and route building. It's a race game, connections, transportation theme. It plays over 12 rounds in which players build the best bus line in town. Each round reveals a new card that shows each player the route shape they must complete. So it's a little bit of interaction. I play a lot of multiplayer solitaire games where we're trying to outcompete each other with efficiency. I just think that might be something that might be good with families and friends as well, which is definitely appealing. So that's my number 9, Get On Board.
Is that the London and New York one?
I think it is. Yeah.
That was probably number 12 on my list, actually.
Oh, you considered it, did you?
Yeah, it was right up there. It was one that it was in the last few that I managed to knock off.
I can only assume that's what this dance means.
Yes, it was, because it's like, oh no.
That's the close to the list dance.
Yeah, I really like that one actually. It reminded me a bit of Imperial Steam with the pieces when you put the tracks out.
Yeah. Well, it was famously hard to get, being a Japanese release, but it looks like ILO are bringing it to the Western world. So yeah, look forward to it.
Okay. Very good.
Nice.
So.
Oh, it must be me. On to number 8. Okay, my number 8 has some absolutely staggeringly beautiful artwork by Ian O'Toole, which probably comes as absolutely no surprise. And also another a game with a theme that I think is becoming more and more prevalent, which is I've got this sinister voice coming in from this side, which I mean to suspect it's on somebody else's list. Pampero, about moving Uruguay's power network over to renewables, and particularly wind, capturing the hot, dry wind blowing off the ocean.
Beautiful.
Yeah, so the designer, Julien Pombo, and the game is, it looks like you got some hand management stuff there, some tableau building, some resource management, some action cards that you're going to be playing to sort of generate actions from your. They look like they sit within a tableau as you're playing them. I'm not going to say similar to Art Nova, but it's got that kind of feel of you got action cards just in front of you, and you've got some highlights a little bit above it. And it just, I mean, one, it looked beautiful for starters. The box art by Ian O'Toole, I think, is absolutely, it just looks genuinely glorious and very abstract, and you know, wind farms looking beautiful. That's a matter of opinion, and you can see it how you want. But also quite like the idea of like it's loosely based in the real world as Uruguay tries to move away from sort of fossil fuels onto renewables, and that sort of eco credentials seem to be quite thematic at the moment. There seems to be there were a number of games going through the list where that kind of eco elements, and even Art Nova's got its elements of that sort of conservation project. That kind of thing seems to be becoming much more prevalent now and much more in the public consciousness. So yeah, Pampero, my number 8.
Very nice.
Took all my restraint not to put that on the list this time. It looks absolutely fantastic. It's coming to crowdfunding, so I kept it off my list, which I will not be doing again in future years. It's that hard dodging games
Just
into Kickstarter. So all mine are straight to retail, but it does look magnificent. I think it's going to be a runaway hit, that film.
I think it could be. Kirsty, what's your number 8?
So my number 8 is called Astrum, and it's designed by Ivan Tversky, and it's produced by Cosmodrome Games. Now, obviously, we discussed Luna Maris earlier because I love all the colours. This one is just stunning. It's so pretty. Basically, it's an amazing abstract game with breathtaking art and super easy to learn gameplay. And it's just beautiful colours and patterns, which had me just literally hooked. Like, I think I saw it and I was like, right, that's going on my list before I even looked at how it actually worked. I don't know if you can see it from above, the colours, it's very dark, but then got these really bright, like, neon colours on. What you're doing is you are connecting. I haven't completely got the grasp of the game yet, but there are clear pieces of perspex, which are like Tetris pieces, and we all know the Tetris game, that you are using in this game. So many games use artwork and then cover it with Tetris pieces, whereas this one, you still get to see the beautiful artwork of the board as you cover.
Very nice.
I don't think there's a game that I know which has clear perspex Tetris pieces. I'm not sure if it's perspex, but they look that sort of vibe from the imagery.
I'm trying to think of anything that uses perspex in the game. So.
That sort of...
Maglev Metro's got a few perspex, I believe, and that's a pick up and deliver. You might like that one, because rebuilding. It's nice to see something different, and the designer, Kirsty's excellent.
Yeah.
He's done smartphoning, he's done mobile markets, he's done Aquatica, so he's got a real pedigree of producing good games.
What I like about this one as well is some of my games on the list are quite heavier games and longer games. This is about a 35 to 40 minute game, and it plays 1 to 4 players. So it's smaller, but the gameplay is smaller because of it. So I think it's going to be one of those nice lightweights between heavier ones. Just nice little, you know.
But it's nice to see
refresher.
designers mixing it up and taking chances, isn't it?
Yeah, very much
They're not
so.
always going to hit. I think people
No.
like Phil Walker Harding and who's the guy that does Edge of Darkness?
Oh, John DeClaire.
Yeah, they try and push through boundaries and do different things. So yeah, it's nice to see new unique themes coming out as well.
Exactly. So yes, that's my number 8.
Matt,
What was it called?
Yours? Astrum.
Right, I'll make a note of that. That's great. My number 8 is a game called San Francisco. It's by Dr. Rainer Knizia. It's a city building and train game. The mechanisms are connections, end game bonuses, open drafting, and tile placement. Open drafting, is that like from a market, do you think?
Yeah,
Is there,
I think it will be.
So it'll be from
interesting.
everyone's got access
rather
to
than blind
that.
draft, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I like that. Do you think
there's
it's bidding or something?
I don't. Wow, end game bonuses, open drafting, tile placement. I don't know. I'm not really into bidding games. You know, it has to be done really well for me to do bidding. It just impacts your game so much. In this game, though, it says you're an urban planner whose goal is to create the greatest redevelopment of the famous city of California. Design districts in each of the 5 types, racing against all other planners. Choose the right moment to take on new projects, but be careful. If you take on too many projects, it'll be harder to gain more. Earn more prestige by cleverly designing a system of cable car connections, lay foundations, and carefully design a nearby landscape. So
nice.
it's a good design. It's an interesting theme. I had the pleasure of going to California a few years ago, so it's nice. Yeah, it's just
Have you
really
been to San Fran?
appealed to me. I did go to San Fran. Yeah,
It's beautiful.
yeah, it's nice. So fingers crossed, it's a hit. He's got a few games coming out this year. I saw, but this was.
I don't know if the My City Roll on the Right is by Rainer Knizia, but that's coming out this year as well, which nearly made my list because I really enjoyed My City.
My City's great. Yeah, I've heard that's excellent. Anyway, that's my number 8 by Rainer Knizia. It's called San Francisco.
Lovely.
In fairness, he has multiple games coming out every year.
Yeah.
If a year doesn't contain at least 3 Rainer Knizia games, something's gone wrong.
We'll have to send a search party check on him.
Yeah, what's happened to him? Okay, so on to number 7.
7.
And number 7 is my, and no pun intended when I say absolute shot in the dark. It's it will be coming to Kickstarter this year. Frozen Frontier. It's the idea that the Earth's population has reached an insurmountable number. We've had to leave through newly established wormholes and discover a new planet, but the planet's a bit crap. Frozen, but we're still going to have to work it, and we're going to have to work it hard to survive. This has got every mechanic under the sun. It's area majority. It's got some endgame bonuses. It's got some area influence, area majority. It's got hand management. It's got resource management. It's got income. It's a modular board. Actually, you can find almost no imagery about the game.
Oh, really?
And it sits in my absolute wheelhouse for sci-fi. I love science fiction games. Victory points at the end of the game are for things like control cities, corporations that have buildings, AI tokens in cities and controls, settled colonists, fulfilled shipment contracts, and circumstances described on endgame cards.
That sounds really good.
So there's a lot in there.
Sounds heavy.
It does sound heavy. Playtime is up to 180 minutes, so by my reckoning that's 3 hours, which actually is probably about 4.5 in reality. Yeah. And whenever I see like a 3 hour play account on Board Game Geek, it's going to have to be very good to invest that time. And there aren't many games that sort of make that time count for me, and there's a few that do, but so I'm hoping, I'm really hoping. I love the idea of that sort of sci-fi exploration. I love the idea of that sort of setting up colonies and starting to look at how you survive and how you grow that colony. So fingers crossed, Frozen Frontiers will 1 release this year, but it'll be due on Kickstarter, and 2 successfully fund, and 3 will provide us with more content to establish whether it's going to actually be good or not. But my number 7 is Frozen Frontier.
The designer of that one is the same designer as Kirsty's number 8.
Is it?
Unbelievably, so there's that
you
two
know that?
opposite ends of the spectrum of 3 hours to 30 minutes.
I didn't know that. No, I did not
Yeah,
know
so
that.
they're
my
both
number
going to be
8 is,
fantastic, I think.
Fingers crossed. My fingers are literally crossed.
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay.
So, moving
Hit
on
us up,
to
Kirsty. What's
my
lucky
number
number 7?
Oh.
My number 7 is, I don't know how to pronounce this, Oros. Oros?
Oros.
Oros. And it's designed and the artwork created by Brond Binkhoff. And it's being produced by AESC Games. Now, it's the first game by this producer, and it's a 1 to 4 player game, and it plays in about 60 to 120 minutes, give or take. So, the idea of the game is to form mountains, build sacred monuments in pursuit of the wisdom and knowledge. So, in this game, there's a lot going on.
Selling it to me.
There's a lot going on, but I really like the idea of, and it's a real feast for the eyes when it's out in the table. I've seen the imagery for it. It's probably up above now, and it looks brilliant.
It does look beautiful.
Yeah. There are multiple layers to this game, and the use of the mechanisms using are, it's really interesting because you have to almost think like 3 or 4 moves ahead, because where you place your workers, you have that immediate you have to be able to do that action. I think it's of 10, and then it can only move in one direction from there, so you have to think about where it's then going to.
Okay.
You know, if I do that now, I can't then do that next turn. And I think there's might be wrong, I'm doing it from the top of my head, X amount of slots across the top, and then you can gain more workers, but the more workers you have, the less freedom you have to move them around.
Okay.
So it's really one of those that it's like, it's a brilliant idea to get more workers, but actually you're just clogging up the action area, so you can't move them around as easy. And I really like that idea, because often when we play games, I will not take all the workers and everyone else will, and I'll still give you a good run for your money.
Yeah.
So I'm really interested to see, as you know, that's one of the mechanics of the games, of how that's gonna, how that's gonna take place.
Do you know what though? It might teach us how to operate with less workers and become even more efficient.
Definitely. Well, generally in games, more workers equals
better,
more
yeah.
actions.
Yep.
It ends up being,
But this is interesting because it takes that concept and actually it makes it worse, because you can't move them around as freely, which I really like. And you are in this game literally forming mountains. You're building layers upon each other, and it's really interesting to, the board will become 3D because of those.
Okay.
It's one that really drew me in, and I'm really looking forward to it. So keep an eye on that one.
Excellent.
So that's my number 7, Oros.
Fantastic. My number 7 is a game called Union Stockyards, which is a game about trying to make a profit from livestock. It's by first-time designer Dwayne Wolfe. What I really liked about it is that the artist is Andrew Bosley. I think he did Everdell. So he's pretty famous, so he's putting his name on this. The box art looks great. It comes under the category of animals, economic and industry manufacturing. Nice. The mechanisms are endgame bonuses, events, market, variable setup and worker placement. I do like a variable setup because I find it just adds that little bit of longevity to a game. You can enjoy a game, but if you play it 5 times, and
that's nice.
it can be time to trade it up. But opening in 1865, the Union Stockyards becomes Chicago's largest industry. Union Stockyards is a midway economic Euro game with unique features such as supply and demand driven market that is central to gameplay, low randomness, market changes only due to player decisions, and a worker placement game where workers go on strike, Kirsty.
I like that.
So
I really like that idea.
Whether someone is interacting and preventing you from using all your workers, there could be an element of interaction there, hopefully.
Nice.
But it'd be interesting to see when it comes out. That's my number 7, Union Stockyards.
I like the idea of workers going on strike. I will be curious to see how that works mechanically.
You've got a lot of California. It's Chicago. This one, I was thinking it's California.
No, it's still the States. Yeah, absolutely.
And I looked at this one.
Did you?
Yeah. It was probably my number 22 when I was looking.
This is probably too light for you, Kirsty. You like them very heavy. She's a heavy gamer.
the heavier it is, the easier I find it.
Do you know what? We'll do a gaming gossip on weight and complexity of games, and we'll talk about why Kirsty finds heavy games simple.
Yeah.
But I think that'll be interesting. That's a good topic.
Yeah. Okay, we can do that sometime.
Okay, we're moving on to number 6. And my number 6 taps into that age-old element of glory, and we're going to Rome. It's the Age of Rome. It's a game by 2 new designers. I'm not going to pronounce your names.
I think you should try.
Thank you. Vangelis Ethenimou and Antonius Yiannopoulos. Anyway, I apologise. Pronunciations, no thanks, not my strong point. But it's so. What really appealed to me in this one was it's a bit of a city builder. So you've got some city building elements to it. You've got 4-phase interaction. You've got 4 phases within each turn. You've got player interaction built in, hardwired into the game, so it's not just multiplayer solitaire, which I'm not always a big fan of. 60-minute playtime.
Wow.
Ooh.
And
that's interesting.
Yeah, it is. Because actually, if you can get a sort of heavier game, or not like you're never going to get a heavier feel. Thank you, Matt. A heavier feel to a game that can still play in 60 minutes and give you that real satisfaction. That's a great games night game. And I'm always on the lookout for a really great games night game. The only thing that worried me with this one is that it has a mechanic that I often dread in games. Kirsty loves. I'm not sure what Matt's opinion is. It has event cards, and an event.
I don't love them. I like to think about them when I'm producing my games as to whether they would fix or break the game.
Event cards always break games.
Well, maybe if everyone got to see the event deck before it kicks off in the game, that might help a little bit. But I take your points entirely.
But anyway, so that's the only thing that worried me about the game when I was looking at it. It's like actually 60 minutes, city building, some majority stuff in there, some resource management stuff in there. I love area majority. It's one of my favourite point scoring mechanics in games. Just then, sort of event cards. I was like, oh, do you need them? I think
it still made it to number 6 after all that as well.
Oh come on! If it can give you a great city building game with some good area majority, some good resource management stuff in there, and it can actually play in 60 minutes. And I know on my last game I was like 180 minutes. Right, I think it's going to be another 4 hours. But sometimes you have to be hopeful, people. And I am hopeful that Age of Rome by 2 new designers is going to deliver. That 60-minute city builder, and I'll be a happy man if he does.
Hail Caesar, Phil.
Kirsty, take it away.
I did look at Age of Rome actually. That was
on
my
my.
It was in my top 30 before I had a little call.
I can't believe we've not had a crossover yet.
Not
to
yet.
be honest, we've done well so far.
So, shall I move on to my number 6?
Yeah.
I believe there may be a crossover. Okay, so my number 6 is the Smoky Valley, which is designed by Claude Siros. Is that right? Have I said that right?
Hopefully.
Sorry. Yeah. The artwork is by Harold Lisk, and it's produced by Steelworks. And the idea of Smoky Valley is to upgrade industries in Griffintown to develop the business, because it is a Griffin town. Second production game.
Yeah, he did one earlier one, I believe. Not sure how much of a hit it was, but it's his second.
So it's like the second edition in it. Now, when I went to Essen, I met the guys from Spielworks when I was collecting my little circle in Squareville, which I absolutely love, and it was a good one to have on the list because it's a brilliant game.
Nice flex.
Yes, yep. So it's for 2 to 4 players with multiple boards and cards that interact with the different player board. So you play a card, and when that card goes onto your board, and it affects where you're playing on the board, if that makes sense. So I am really looking forward to this one because I haven't played a bad Spielworks game yet. And yeah, reading all the details about it, when we got the leaflet about it last year, this was going to be on my list anyway. So yeah,
very cool.
Yeah, this was my number 6. So I'm very excited and looking forward to playing that one day.
They do some good games. I'm trying to find one by them called The Cost, which is about asbestos of all topics.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but it's very hard to find. I think once they do a print run, they tend to disappear.
Yeah, they do 1,000 copies and you're done.
Hmm.
So, yeah. Get them while they're good.
Definitely.
And otherwise you're tracking them down,
Number 6 already.
Yeah, we're
Flying through
getting
it.
there, mate. We're getting there.
Scary stuff.
Okay, number 6 from me is a game called Clockwork by Jacob Lindberg. He's done several games, nothing in the top 1 or 200, but he's a consistent designer. The categories aviation, adventure, dice, exploration and fantasy. The mechanisms are contracts, dice rolling, pick up and deliver, which I know you might like.
Yep.
Set collection, worker placement, different worker types again, Phil.
Interesting.
Yeah, I like that.
This is a new theme.
I'm a big fan. It's a nice way of playing.
Well, there's not a lot of imagery online, but there's some minis that are airships, and a bit of a description is gather resources, improve your airship, and travel through time to deliver goods in the future or the past. That's a little bit different.
I like that.
There's not that many time travel games, and if there are, they're probably not done that well. Anachrony is the only one I can think of that seems to have a good reputation.
Yeah, Anachrony's got a good reputation, but I'm not sure. Time travel's hard in the game because the game state moves forward, and theoretically to time travel you need to reset the game state.
To go backwards.
I suppose you're tracking it as well, aren't you?
That's tricky.
Yeah. Well, the final bit is it's a resource management, worker placement, pick up and deliver game set in a futuristic steampunk universe. I do like a bit of steampunk.
Do you know what? I love steampunk.
Yeah, it's a bit underutilised, I think. Players will turn by turn place their influence on the inner board to activate actions, middle board to gain momentum, or on the outer board to deliver goods. So it sounds like there's a little bit of balancing to do in the game.
I like that.
It's a careful game of strategy or risky tactics depending on your preferred style of play. In the end, players win by achieving challenges or completing time-travelling jobs. The player with the most victory points is the winner.
I like that.
I don't think I've never heard
That's
of that
new.
victory condition before.
Really? Victory
Never.
points?
No.
I'll have to show you some
Do you
games
wanna
with it in.
I'll introduce you to your collection, shall I?
So it's a little bit different, bit of time travelling. That's my number 6, a game called Clockwork.
Nice.
The artwork for that one's quite nice, isn't it?
Does look good.
Steampunky feel to it.
Okay. 5.
Halfway.
5. So number 5. My number 5 was kickstarted last year, I think, and is now, I don't think it's available at retail, but is Distilled. A game about getting drunk on spirits. So I'm absolutely loving it.
Cheers.
I love the theme. I think it's fun. It's an interesting theme. I like the idea of creating the best spirits and like shipping it out to customers. That's a really nice way. Midweight complexity, which probably means it's going to be a nice, straightforward play. There's going to be some resource management in there, some set collection. You are basically trying to become a master distiller and create the best spirits around the table that your customers will love. 2-hour playtime looks really nice. And the artwork is absolutely glorious for it. Slightly cartoony feel, but in a really sort of nice way. And it looks like, for me, it looks like a game that is going to be a nice dedicated gaming group game. Like you've got a group of people who play regularly, and it's a game you can put down and that you can be competitive about without being obnoxious about it on a casual games night. Distilled I thought looks absolutely fantastic. You are upgrading your resources, upgrading your distillery, and that kind of upgrade, that engine building upgraded piece is always nice. Feeling more powerful as you progress through games, a real nice feel, a real nice vibe to it. And like I say, I really like the theme, so I feel like Distilled is a game I'll be looking for this year to pick up, and hopefully it will live up to my expectations at least.
If not, you can just go and drown your sorrows.
Yeah, on the spirits I've made.
Cool, sounds good.
I saw this one, but I'm not much of a drinker, so I think I just skip past it.
I mean, you think about it, that's theme, isn't it? Theme appeals to different people at different times, so it's a different idea of playing something that appeals to you. There's a few beer games and whiskey games out there, isn't there?
Yeah.
There are a few coming out when we were at Essen, and a lot of like ale brewery type
Yeah.
themed.
Seems becoming more popular.
Yeah, like crafting different ales.
Yeah.
And
Have you both played
beers.
Clans of Caledonia? You can make
No,
whiskey and that. You
No.
can. Yeah, that's interesting.
Isn't whiskey like the most important bit of currency
I
in
think
that game?
it is, yeah, for that particular game. But yeah, cool. Look forward to that.
Brilliant.
Kirsty.
So, my number 5, the halfway point. Okay, so my number 5 is Weather Machine. And this is by...
Speaking of someone who likes lighter games.
What?
So who's the designer again?
Vital Lacerda, artwork by Ian O'Toole, who Phil mentioned earlier, and it's produced by Eagle Griffin Games. Now, for me, this game looks both intriguing as well as challenging, with players needing to work virtually backwards to be able to think towards the game. So there's so many different aspects of the game that you're needing to consider, because you are effectively creating the weather and you need all the different parts, and you need to be working that part of the board and that part of the board, but before doing that part of the board you need to this and then that one and this, and it's one that you really need to it's probably going to blow my mind and not be able to. I'll probably be like, oh my god, why is this on my list, why have I brought this? But it's very much one I was really intrigued by it. And
Have you got any other Vital Lacerda games?
We have Escape Plan is just behind this screen.
Yeah.
Also, On Mars is on its way.
Yeah.
Winging its way towards us.
Yeah.
So
There's definitely a heavy strategy theme in those, and there's a big teach, but I've heard they're really good, very satisfying. Lisboa's is most famous one, which I've heard is a real good one. But no, I can't wait for you to teach me this one.
Yeah, very much so.
I can't wait for Chris to teach me this one either.
I like the artwork as well in this one.
Yeah.
Because I think it's kind of oldie worldy, but it's got a vibe. I can't quite antique.
Eagle Griffin Games seems to have clicked onto the fact that we like nice art and we like good mechanics, and if you can combine the two, they've just got this formula that every Kickstarter that Vital does, they do a good job with the artwork.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting when you think about your game, the one with the Ian O'Toole artwork, Pampero. Like that was really like fresh and like bright and colourful, and this one's obviously quite antique-y and kind of like sepia over its tones, but they're still by the same guy.
Yeah,
It just seems like very much go with the theme.
A very talented artist is Mr. O'Toole. I think it's like Lacerda games, like they are complex. But once you've got one of them down, they play pretty well. But they are notoriously challenging games to play. But actually, I don't think they're that bad once you've learnt them. So it's often the way. Matt, you're number 5.
Number 5 for me is a game called Revive. And you mentioned earlier about post-apocalyptic world and getting resources and civilizations getting back on their feet. This game is civilization, industry, manufacturing, deck construction, and tech trees, which seem to be fashionable.
Love a good tech tree.
Yeah, definitely. Variable player powers. What drew me to this one is that it's got 4 designers. One I know, which is Christian Osby.
Okay.
So let me give you the list of games Christian Osby has done. He's done Santa Maria.
Okay, good game.
He's done Escape Cursor Temple, which me and my wife like. Trousers to
So
Karma,
much fun.
which we like. The Magnificent, which the three of us really like.
Yeah.
Automania, which I played a couple of weeks ago, is still really great. And Capital Lux.
Yeah.
So what a roster of games. Capital Lux is fantastic.
Mr. Svensson.
Yeah.
Eli Svensson.
Yeah.
He is co-designer on obviously the games you just mentioned.
Yeah.
He's also Chili Fox Games.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, that's good to know. Yeah.
So yeah.
Your favourite fan of last year.
The blurb on this one is revive a civilization 5,000 years after everything was destroyed, explore the frosted lands and harness its resources, recruit local inhabitants for your tribe, build factories and machines, and revive lost locations and relearn your tribe's forgotten abilities.
I like that.
It's a civilization game for 1 to 5 players, no fighting or direct conflict, which is unusual, so no military aspect.
I'm not sure
love
how.
that.
There's going to be a lot of people who complain about that
and don't knock it. So you tried it.
But Civilization, Civ
they
builders
tend to go hand in hand.
Yeah,
don't
they
with-
really do.
Yeah. Each player plays one of 6 unique tribes with their own abilities, technologies and goals. The game has quick rounds, but lots of possible strategies. Each player builds their own deck of multi-use cards, which I really like the sound of.
like that.
So just to be able to say that I'll put this deck together and that's the strategy you're going to follow, because every game tends to be a bit more different then.
That's nice.
On your turn you play 2 cards. Each card can be played in one of several slots around your player board, either to produce resources or to use the citizen's special ability. You can upgrade and customise each of your slots to improve the effect of cards played there. So the fact that we know who those 2 designers are, there's also Helge Messina and Anna Wormlund, by Porter Games, who've got sterling reputation. Just really excited. You're building factories, harnessing the power of terrains, advancing your technologies.
Nice.
Just, you know what, number 5's too low. Should have put it up higher.
Why is it not higher?
Yeah.
So
That's my number 5, a game called Revive.
That sounds really good.
I really missed that one somehow.
Well, there's only one image, and it's not the best image about it. So you'd have to
early days.
have to dig deep. Yeah.
Okay.
Good game.
On to number 4.
Doo-doo-doo.
Yeah. So I don't know what I was thinking. I do, actually. That's a lie.
This will be interesting then.
My number 4 is a hidden movement game.
Okay.
Which for me can be a bit hit and miss sometimes. When they're good, they're really
Is that
fun.
like battleships?
No, similar actually. Yeah, hidden movement games. The battleships are moving in the hidden movement game. Kirsty's not played a hidden movement game yet.
Right. Okay.
We will resolve that at some point soon. This is a hidden movement game, and when they're good, I really enjoy them.
Okay.
Spectre Ops, I think, is absolutely fantastic. I don't know if you've played that.
No.
That's a great example of a good hidden movement game.
Okay.
This one is Kalewala, the Tale of the Sampo.
That sounds good.
Yeah. So the people who've got no idea what I'm talking about, which is lovely, because I didn't at first. And what I quite liked about this was, so it's the setting is Finnish.
Oh, okay,
So it's set in Finnish mythology, which I think is interesting, and maybe a setting that's not been used very often in games. The Sampo is, if you read the blurb, is the sort of inspiration almost for the One Ring in Lord of the Rings, the idea of so this is the idea that you're moving this thing called the Sampo and trying to get it to a destination where other people are hunting you and seeking you. I think it's a team game. It does say plays 1 to 6, and I'm not sure how a 1-player hidden movement game works, but that we'll have to wait and see. Do you blindfold yourself and put a pin in the map and then take it from there?
Like a solo mode.
Maybe it does.
So you'd hope that's what it was.
But yeah, I really like a good hidden movement game. The artwork on this you'll see up here somewhere, is really breathtaking. The board kind of plays, it's a vertical board, which you're sticking things to. And yeah, it genuinely looks fascinating. And I love the setting. I don't know much about Finnish mythology, but it's one of those where it's nice to see something new and something slightly different. So Kalewala, the Tale of the Sampo, a hidden movement game about getting a thing to its the Sampo to its destination, variable powers, variable player powers, and yeah, I'm kind of looking forward to seeing how it plays. But it really caught my attention.
Fantastic.
Sounds really good, and I'm very much looking forward to trying this new game style.
Hidden movement.
Yeah.
Actually, if neither of you have played Hidden Movement, we need to do a Hidden Movement game at some point.
I don't know if I own any hidden movement games. Do you have any?
Not at the moment, but
it's not a common mechanism, really, is it?
It's not. I mean, I can think of the games I've played. So Fury of Dracula.
That's probably the most famous
one. Spectre Ops, which is fantastic. There's Nuns on the Run, which I've not played. There's the Jack the Ripper game. I can't remember what it's called.
Wouldn't Star Wars Rebellion be hidden movement? Maybe
I think there's some hidden elements of hidden movement. But yeah, like they are. There's not that many of them out there, and when they are good, with the right group, they're often a lot of fun.
Okay, so if we don't get invited, we know we're not.
We are the right group, Phil. Obviously,
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Thanks for completing that. Okay, so we'll go on to my number 4. And my number 4 is Mosaic, A Story of Civilisation. Now, this is designed by Glenn Drover and produced by Forbidden Games. Having met the guys at Essen last year and getting to experience their release, which was Raccoon Tycoon by the same designer, figured this one would be a safe bet. So it's a medium-weighted game and suitable for 2 to 6 players, which to me is very attractive. It's a card drafting, engine building, civilization game with a lot of pieces, and it's a huge table hogger. But it looks amazing. I'm really interested in it. There's lots of pieces, there's lots of different layers of bits and pieces that you can do, and yeah, I'm really looking forward to this one. The artwork's really interesting, and to start off with, I'd seen it was by the designer, and that caught my eye because obviously from Raccoon Tycoon, and then I was umming and ahhing about whether to put it on the list. There are others which we've obviously discussed and I've said, but when I watched it's not a playthrough, but a bit more of a background on the game, I was like, yes, that's definitely a game for me. There's lots to be thinking of, lots of nice colours, and just it's definitely one that I'm very much looking forward to playing.
Yeah, I've heard of it. It's like a game. Is it a civilization game, or you build up I think something along those lines. Along those lines of you've got a tribe, or I've got a tribe, and
you try and grow your civilization.
Yeah, I think it's along those lines. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's my number 4, Mosaic, A Story of Civilization.
Cool, famous designer, definitely.
Yeah.
My number 4 is a game called East India Companies. It's by a first-time designer called Pascal Ribrault. He actually did an earlier version of this game. It's by an established publisher called Huch, H-U-C-H, exclamation mark. They've got a lot of games out there. They all seem to be pretty smooth, streamlined kind of games as well. There is no categories or mechanisms listed by them as of yet, so pull your finger out, let's get some information. There's a brief description that says, in East India Companies, players manage a large shipping company that trades with far-flung trading posts in India. They must manage their ships and invest in buying shares of their own company or those of their competitors. Nice. Most importantly, players have to keep an eye on the constantly fluctuating market prices. Is it better to invest your money in the stock market or in buying goods? Do they prefer to use fast ships with low tonnage or slower ships with larger holds? And that's something that really appeals to me, to be able to strategise.
I think ships should have large holes in them.
Yes, it depends on your accent and where you're from in the country. So you can influence your opponents and see which way you want to play it by hopefully shipping goods to those far-flung corners of the world. Tea, spices, coffee, silk. Much of the trade in the Mediterranean fare that we're used to. But I don't really have any shipping games. I thought it'd be nice to have a different theme. And that's my number 4, East India Companies by Hooch.
The box art on that was beautiful, wasn't it? Really nice, good. Like sunsetty type. Yeah, it was beautiful.
Okay.
Looks good.
Yeah.
Top 3.
Yeah, and interesting.
Best of the best.
I like the idea of buying and selling shares in different companies as well.
Yeah.
We know that's a fun mechanism when it works well. And also very frustrating when you're on the receiving end of things going wrong, which is also fun as well. My number 3 just finished on Kickstarter, actually. Just finished, like about 2 days ago, maybe 3 days ago from when we're filming this. And my number 3 is Ostia, the building of the Roman harbour.
Obviously.
It's obviously. I've seen a documentary about Ostia. It's very exciting. It wasn't about the game, oddly. It was actually about the harbour being built. It has a hexagonal harbour, so it's in essence designed for games.
Obviously.
So it's not it's not similar. It's another trading in the Mediterranean, I guess.
Yeah.
You're moving trade goods, you're selling trade goods, you're growing your harbour city, you're building your harbour city. There's a really interesting Mancala style mechanism where you're moving ships around the hexagon, dropping off ships as you go, standard Mancala style. But you're also, obviously collecting the bonus at the end of that, but you're also gaining benefits as you drop ships off as well. So something interesting and slightly different to that Mancala idea there. Second game, I think, by Tustuko Cho, and it looks fascinating to me. It's like there's a lot going on. There's a lot of development, city building elements in there, and then there's this idea of this Mancala element to just drive your resource management, which I think could be really interesting. The complexity looks a really nice pitch, and overall I think the mechanisms coming together, that kind of city building element, that resource management, shipping trade goods out for to gain money and prestige, and the Mancala for generating resources and generating actions. I know, it just sounds fascinating. Sounds really interesting. And I was looking at it, I was researching it, and didn't even realise it was currently on Kickstarter.
Wow!
As I was doing the research, and by the end of the research, I was like, okay, I'm just going to click on that back now, because actually, I think there's more than enough game there to keep yourself really, really occupied and really entertained. So, Ostia, building of a Roman harbour. Yeah, looks fantastic. Looks really interesting, and really can't wait now to see the Kickstarter delivered.
That'd be cool. Who's it by?
It's by Tostuko Cho is the designer, and the publisher is Uchibakoya. There you go. Yeah. I had to read that with pain. But that's the
I just wondered.
designer and publisher.
I wasn't sure if you'd mention. That's...
Thanks.
Cool, it sounds really good. Another shipping theme, so maybe that'll
really
make a
beautiful
comeback.
game.
I mean, it must be. I'm surprised you missed it, because it's designed. Oh, it's on Kickstarter, so he wasn't making it.
Tried to.
But it was like, it's shipping, it's city building. It's like
Really beautiful artwork in it as well.
Yeah, really slightly abstracted artwork.
Nice colours.
Yeah.
Very like turquoisey,
Teals.
tealy. Yeah, nice use of colour in that game.
Okay, your number 3.
So my number 3, which actually was someone that I met at Essen, and my number 3 is Gigawatt. Now, Gigawatt is designed by Milo van Holstein and Volta Vink. It plays 1 to 6 players in a playtime of 60 to 120 minutes, and it's a mid-weight game. Now, this is a first-time game for these designers, and I just need to point out that they had a fantastic Kickstarter video as well. It was a real walk through the game using the artwork. It was just is very, very cleverly done. You were kind of going through the different abstract ways in which you play the game.
So it was on the table when you were there, you got to see it all?
Yeah,
Oh, it
got
looked,
to see
it looked fantastic.
Yeah.
Really nice.
The prototype that was out looked amazing. This one again was another. It's another trying to reduce climate change, and it's basically you're fighting climate change, and you are changing from obviously the pollutants and trying to use other forms, so like solar.
It's similar to Pampero, fossil to renewable.
To be fair, I think there were probably 4 themed games around climate change and changing our fuels for games, and there was another one. I won't name it, but I was umming and ahhing between it, and the other one had a mechanism whereby you stack cubes of like damage. You stack cubes of damage, and when the damage topples, it's a climate change event type-esque. And I thought, well, actually that's not really gameplay, that's someone who could just badly place it to mess it up for the next. And because of that mechanic in the game, it just went straight off. It wasn't even a choice, and Gigawatt has remained there. And there's a lot to take in. It's a big board. It's all over like Europe, and you are basically using all different mechanisms, but it's very, very thematic and it's very aesthetically pleasing, as well as being very challenging.
Is it Power Grid-esque, would you say?
No.
Like building
haven't
routes?
played.
No.
Haven't played
Although yes, there's an element of route building there.
Yeah.
But what's really interesting in Gigawatt is the player interaction is really interestingly managed. So if I've got customer demands of needing more power, I can buy that power off you.
Oh, that's good.
So there's a real interesting element of interaction, and if you can't provide power, your reputation goes down. And like the renewables are often not as effective as the fossil fuel. So every time you transfer to a renewable and drop a fossil fuel off, you often might need to buy fuel from. Really interesting.
Well, that's good because it plays up to 6. It says so that would be interesting if you can get that interaction going between 6 players.
Very much
that
so.
could be really good.
And a really nice use of colour throughout the game as well.
Yeah,
which I thought was really appealing.
It's got a cool name as well, Gigawatt.
Gigawatt,
definitely.
So
good luck to them.
Yeah, that's my number 3.
Cool, sounds like a good one. Number 3 for me is a game called Autobhan. Autobahn is a game about building the German motorway system over 3 periods from the end of World War II. So that's the theme. It's a unique theme, I'll give it that. The category is economic, industrial, manufacturing and transportation. Mechanisms are hand management, network and route building, pick up and deliver, and tech trees again, which seems to be the fashionable thing. I like this one because Fabiola Piano and Nestore Mangone are the designers. Fabiola Piano's done Merv, he's done Calimara, Ragusa and Zapotec, and Nestore Mangone has done Newton, which is excellent. I like that one. Masters of Renaissance, Humboldt's Great Voyage and Expo 1906, so some really quality titles. It's also coming from Alicat Games, which is a UK publisher. They seem to be hitting their stride. They did Martin Wallace's Tinner's Trail, I think, last year as well, so it's nice to see them doing well. Over the course of the game, your board members will eventually advance to more prestigious seats within the Bundes Autobahn building, which will instead provide victory points at the end of the game. Plan ahead, optimise your efficiency, which I really love. Each contribution you make builds your reputation, gains access to new departments and scoring opportunities. The cards in your hand allows you to take actions of one of the 7 main Autobahns. So card for action seems to be a bit of a theme that's developing across games at the minute, and you know, these things come and go in and out of fashion. If someone loves a mechanism, then I'm sure they'll take advantage. But
definitely,
it just seems like a solid team, solid production, and looking forward to my number 3, which is Autobahn.
That one had a really nice cover as well, didn't it? It was like nice bright colours.
Laying tarmac, exciting things.
But it doesn't look like that on the box.
You know what, Matt?
Go on.
When you've laid that that tarmac, my number 2 will get on there and drive.
Excellent.
Really?
Slowly.
Let's hear this.
My number 2 is Horseless Carriage. It has been mentioned in Matt's near misses. I put it on my list because Splotter have released almost no information about it, but it could be good. I'll read the publisher's brief. Horseless Carriage is a game about the dawn of automobile, a time when cars were invented, and no one quite knew yet what this new contraption would look like and what features would be essential. Early cars sometimes used levers or pedals to steer and the wheel to accelerate. Brakes were not always seen as essential. I've met some of those drivers, they still exist today. But sometimes an outside spot to take along an onboard mechanic was needed. Early and super innovative period occurs in development of many new product categories, and in this players are cast as aspiring industrialists trying to find out what features the public will value when buying these new, expensive and utterly unfamiliar horseless carriages. So what can we, from that little... That's it. I mean, that is it. There's a box art, and that's it. So what can we guess from that? What can we hazard a guess? So we hazard a guess that you will be doing something in a fluctuating market where the desires of people are potentially being influenced by you and other companies around you. You're producing potential vehicles to address the needs of these people, and those needs are likely to change as different things are brought into effect. So that's how there's some of the ideas I'd expect to see in the game just from that. It's a splotter game, so it's going to be tough.
It's going to be intricate and demanding, I should imagine, as a game.
Expect tough choices. Expect a brutal early game that if you get wrong, you're probably not playing the game much longer than that. And some serious decisions, seriously difficult and challenging decisions along the way. There will probably be player interaction. It will probably be slightly involved player interaction that will really start to structure the gameplay as the game goes. So there'll be some not just strategic choices but tactical choices to make during the game. Really looking forward to it. If you're whinging about the fact that Splotter have released no information about it, don't worry. If you've liked their games or are excited by their games in the past, then it's probably one to trust. And if that's not your type of game and they don't make the type of game you'd enjoy, don't buy it.
It'll be very heavy.
Yeah.
But I don't think I can remember the last game that they actually released. What was the last game they made?
I guess the last thing they released would have been the ketchup mechanism for Food Chain Magnet.
We were there in 2019 at Essen looking at the stall. But I don't actually know the last game that they put out. But yeah, it'll be a quality production, I should imagine, as well. They tend to be quite high.
Yep. So that is my number 2. Buy at your peril. I will be buying.
So, my number 2 has already featured on someone else's list. So I won't bang on too much what it's about, but you'll see that it's another climate change game. And this one is Pampero. Again, obviously, artwork Ian O'Teal, Julian Pompo, and developed by Vital Lacerda and produced by APE Games, where you're building wind farms and expanding and improving the grid to master the energy market, as you explained.
It still sounds good to me.
And it still looks great.
Yeah. I'm not sure if you mentioned that Vital Lacerda had worked on it.
I didn't know he had actually. I didn't see
so he had a bit of development work there as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot of components. There's lots going on to grasp the player's attention. Even the player pieces, they've used different player colours and different components, and I just really like it. And they're all screen printed minis.
Screen printed wooden
like pieces, and it's different types.
I just want to say Ostia also has screen printed wooden as well.
Yeah, it does. So yeah, I'm not going to bang on too much because obviously we've already discussed it quite heavily.
Say what you want to say.
Yeah.
The designer is the same designer. He did Mikado di Lisboa. So he's worked with Vital Lacerda before, so he's got a pedigree there as well. I saw Ian O'Toole on social media saying how much he enjoys the gameplay of Pampero.
That's
good.
I do know it's got high praise from him as well. So
that's good.
Anything he tends to put his name, I suppose you've got to learn a game to be able to do the art in some respects. But I can see why it's so highly praised. All the way to number 2 of your most anticipated games.
It's supposed to take between 60 to 150 minutes. So obviously maybe that, I don't know, that varies on number of players or, how quick people take to, pick it up. But yeah, I don't mind if it's a heavier game. That's fine with me.
Yeah,
I enjoy them.
We look forward to getting beaten by you.
That's my Pampero.
It's the life we lead.
Number 2.
Excellent.
What's yours than that?
It's a crossover with Kirsty. Number 2 is the Smoky Valley. It's a city building, economic, industrial, manufacturing, transportation game by Claude Siros. He's done one other game in this universe. But this is the second game called the Smoky Valley. We've got action points, action queue, hand management and income. So it tends to be you do a little bit of work and that work then you have an income round and you get the benefits of that, which I quite like that. I've experienced that with Ark Nova lately. It's, it gives you then access to more funds to do extra things. Smoky Valley, sorry.
I was going to say it's accurate. You do some work, you get paid for it.
Yeah, and that's the economics side of it, I think. It's a Spielworks game as well, who did Square and Circleville last year, which Kirsty really likes. I still haven't got to play that with you guys yet.
We can sort that out.
Crack it out on the table tonight?
Maybe. Smoky Valley is a heavy economic and industrial development game set around the Lachine Canal, which is located in the Griffintown neighbourhood in Montreal, Canada. In the Smoky Valley, you're an investor during the 19th century, contributing to the standing of Griffintown as a key industrial area of North America by building and upgrading industries producing and transforming goods and shipping goods abroad. I've watched one playthrough of this. That's all I could find.
Really?
Yeah. So it looks like the publisher either didn't select very many people, but the lady said that though she was asked to do it, it was all digitally done on TTS.
Okay.
You know, got to see
During
what the
COVID,
mechanisms were. Yeah. So it did look really good. I'm happy to say that 2 days ago it actually arrived as a pre-order. So
We're getting that on the table soon.
So we get to have a go at one of our most anticipated games.
It's exciting.
Yeah,
I mean, talk about that. You only talk about it, and 2 minutes later, it's there.
I
mean, that is delivery.
That's how all of these games work.
Next. So that's my number 2. We will let you know how it plays, maybe get it to the table.
Yeah.
Yes.
The Smoky Valley by Spielworks.
One thing just before we go on to our number ones, I'd just like to say I've decided, based on all the different locations of the games, I think we should, when we get the games, we should go to the place and play them. We're going to have a great great year this year. If we do.
Sounds great.
Don't you think? Like California, Chicago. Why not? Canada.
Space. We're going to space, everyone.
Why not?
Look out, Jeff.
I think it sounds great.
Yeah, quite.
Do you think it's a good idea?
Yeah, I'd love to.
I mean, like, people play Carcassonne and Carcassonne and, you know, Quedlinburg and Quedlinburg, so why not?
Yeah, why?
Let's do it.
Why
Let's
not?
do it. Let's make up for some lost travel time. Go on then.
We're on to number ones.
Dun, dun, dun.
My most anticipated game of the year.
I'm bracing, Phil. I'm bracing.
I'm going to space again.
Are you?
Are you?
There's
You taking
definitely
this with you?
a sci-fi theme throughout your list this year.
Yeah. I'm going to space. I'm going to space on the Starship Exodus. I am going to be a human hybrid. I'm going to be human machine hybrid.
I always suspected, Phil.
I'm going to be managing all kinds of exciting stuff. I'm going to be looking at exploration elements. I'm going to be looking at just sort of, there's going to be negotiation elements in there. There's going to be semi-cooperative elements in there. I do like good semi-cooperative elements in there. And I'm also going to be playing it for 4 hours plus.
Oh my god. Yay!
So I've picked Interstellar.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I'm sure the film's about that length as well, isn't it?
Which actually is a re-implementation of High Frontier Interstellar, which is an expansion for High Frontier game. And I think it was a solo mode expansion for High Frontier. But this one is putting all of that into a single package. It's going to be, there's some semi-cooperative elements, there's going to be some exploration elements. There is going to be certainly some elements of negotiation, of market trading, and all kinds of wonderful exploration-y, sci-fi, adventure type stuff in a Euro extravaganza with a 1 to 4 hour playtime. So it will never run longer than 4 hours ever.
Right.
Not on the first teach. What's interesting, other things that I did sort of find kind of fascinating. So the original game itself is rated 4.7 weighting, complexity rating on Board Game Geek.
Okay.
So we'll see where this one settles out at. But actually, if you look at the images that are scrolling above me just here, you'll see a whole raft of interlinked mechanisms, a whole raft of components, board pieces. Just a lot of things going on. So the complexity is possibly in the sort of just the volume of options you have available to you, and it just, to me, it encapsulates everything I really love about science fiction. That kind of survival aspect, that kind of adventure exploration aspect, that kind of trading, negotiation, the semi-co-op to keep things moving. All of that really brings things together for me and really captures a lot of the essence of the science fiction I love to read. And when I started reading through it and having a look at how the game was sort of structured, I just thought, you know what, it's a 4 hour playtime. It's probably going to be a 5 hour playtime. It's probably going to be a game we play a couple of times a year at best, because finding 5 hours to play a game, and then everyone's got their long games they like to play. But actually, I thought, you know what, I really want that sort of heavy sci-fi, economic kind of masterpiece type game.
It's a genre dominated by 2 or 3 big games. There's definitely a market that needs cracking for some new blood, I would say. So it'd be nice to see how this one plays.
Yeah, and I didn't necessarily want anything that looked like Twilight Imperium, where there's a lot of 4X elements. This is not a 4X game, so you don't have that sort of confrontation and conflict in there, but the semi-co-op element felt like it
that can take up a lot of time, that resolution as well.
Yeah, so it felt like it gave me some of that elements of that sort of competitive conflict without actually direct conflict. So we'll see. But Interstellar, my number 1 game this year. Hopefully be able to get that one picked up and played.
Fantastic.
Sounds good to me. So, my number 1, interestingly, it would seem we're going with a similar theme. So my number 1 is Planet Unknown, and it's designed by Ryan Lambert and Adam Rayberg. It's produced by Adam's Apple Games. Now, everybody knows that I love a good Tetris game. It's no secret.
Obsessed.
Yeah, exactly. And this is no exception. However, it has an added mechanism within the game, which you can probably see above, which is there's a lazy Susan in the centre of a table, which means that when I'm playing, I get to choose the position of the pieces that I want to take, and everyone else around the table has to take it from the section that are near them.
Ah, that's interesting.
So yeah, it's a really clever thought. You know, it's something like, obviously, you know, if you've got Tetris like Barron Park and different smaller games whereby, you know, you take the piece if you can afford it, and things like My City, it's chosen by card. This one is chosen by the player interaction. So if I choose to select that area, everyone else has to choose from what's in front of them, and then you choose what suits you best. And I just thought it was such... I watched a video of it and I was just like, oh my god, that's so good. But obviously all the different parts of what you're doing, you're building, you're creating space, travel, different forms
and you're laying them onto planets, and you're trying to get the resources off the planet. So it does look really good, this one.
Yeah.
I thought that the lazy Susan mechanism was really interesting, because it could leave you in a really strange position where you're actually choosing to make a slightly suboptimal choice on your part to really
stop someone else.
screw somebody up on the other side of the table.
And it's that balance of, I don't want them getting that piece, but I don't necessarily actually need this one. But actually, if I don't take it now, I might not get another chance to do it. And it really leaves that... It's the Red Cathedral conundrum for me, and it's when to place the windows and the doors and the decoration, because you don't want to get someone jumping ahead. And it's that same kind of... Obviously this is a completely different type of game, but timing is crucial in that game as to when you do it, because if suddenly somebody triggers the end of the game, you've only got 1 move left. At best you might be able to place 2 ornamental pieces, but and so that one for me, I really like the idea. The artwork really cool. I'm
hoping it's not a gimmick, because it does look like a really good game. So I'm hopeful that it's an integral part of the gameplay, and that bit of interaction it's nice to have something new and unique.
The map was quite nice as well.
Yeah, I think there's loads of maps. They've put loads of different planets in it, so you can just go around lots of planets.
Lots of different replayability with
definitely
that as well.
Expandable as well. So it does look really good, that one.
Easy to add expansions for future play, as you just said. So. Yeah, so that's my number 1, Planet Unknown. And actually, interesting, that was the first one I saw on the list.
Oh, really?
And it's the one that kept coming back. And when I was creating my, chopping them down, that's the one I was always like, oh, it's not quite yet. And it's a bit more. And it's ended up being my number 1. So
space. Am I going to end up in space?
No.
I'm going to end up in ancient China.
Is it ancient city building?
My number 1 is Terracotta Army by Board and Dice. Premslaw Funnell and Adam Kopinski, who did Origin's First Builders. It's an ancient miniatures game with area majority, income, variable setup, worker placement, and different worker types. Good old Board and Dice. They're just knocking these amazing euros out, and you're putting your faith in the designer and the company to deliver a good experience. The brief description is that in Terracotta Army, you represent talented craftsmen and artists labouring to build the wondrous assembly of the statues. During the game, you collect resources, upgrade your workers, and seek favour with the Emperor's advisors. Your goal is to play a crucial role in the process of delivering the Terracotta Army, and your success is measured in victory points. You've heard of those, Phil? During the game, you and your fellow builders build the army together, so it's semi-cooperative.
Nice, I like that.
But after the 5th round, the game is over, and only one of you with the most points stand at the winner. So with the majority, you've got to have certain types of statues in certain areas to get the points.
Nice.
And maybe you can dominate an area versus other players. I really got into area majority from Coffee Traders. I thought that was absolutely fantastic design. I don't play enough of it, and it just really appealed to me, this one.
Have to play that again sometime.
Yeah, I'd like that very much. So that's my number 1 by Board and Dice. Thank you, Board and Dice, for Terracotta Army.
I saw this one.
Did you?
This one I was like, oh, should I, shouldn't I? And I was like, oh. I really liked the idea of it. I'm not quite sure why it didn't make it onto the list. But yes, it's a very good one.
Looking good.
Interesting, and it's I love area majority. I think it's such a fun mechanism.
I like the idea that you're working cooperatively together to build it, but then actually at the end there can only be one winner.
It's probably one of the purest forms of player interaction, isn't it? That someone has prepared their turn to advance into an area you're already in, and do you continue to defend that area, or do you do something different? Which is intriguing.
It's and it possibly a really underrated game, Ethnos, which is pure area majority. It's not like a wildly clever game, but it plays so well. It's so much fun to play. But like the essence of area majority, and it's so much fun because it's like you've got difficult decisions because you've got multiple areas on the board, and it's like, okay, I can't be everywhere, so where can I maximise? And then you get someone who comes along and just stomps you, and then it's like, okay, well, I need to reassess now, and can I come back later?
And it's just the way you can sneak into areas towards the end, or do something slightly different, and just grab into the slightest little hint of an area, which I really like the sound of. But yeah, what a
really
list!
good.
Not very many crossovers on that list.
Well,
I thought there was going to be more.
Actually.
Yeah,
Two crossovers in total. So we got Pampero and the Smoky Valley. So
28
unique games.
And we had all our honourable mentions, which is really good as well. That was a pleasure. Hopefully you found that useful, and there'll be something in there that you like.
And if you didn't find that useful, tough. No,
he doesn't mean that.
No, and certainly I think whether you like our choices or not, take solace in the fact that over the coming year there are going to be 18, 20 odd pages at 40 new games a page, so nearly 800 plus new games coming out over the course of this next 12 months. There'll be more,
something like 1,395, something like that.
Yeah, when you start to add the expansions in as well. The board game industry is vibrant. It continues to grow, and it continues to deliver some fascinating and fantastic projects. And we will buy games during this year that are not on these lists, and we will thoroughly enjoy them. These lists just represent from ourselves what we're looking at, and just thinking these will appeal to our style of game. And I part of my thinking whenever I'm picking these lists is the people I'm playing with, and these two are certainly a large part of that. And you can drift towards your group a little bit sometimes, don't you?
I think we've covered a good cross section, which was maybe we didn't do so much with the Essen list, because Essen was probably 10 pages of choice, so it's a little bit more condensed, whereas this is open market on everything that's available in 2022. But we'll be back at the end of the year with what we enjoyed for 2022 on balance.
How many of these will feature in that list?
That'll be interesting.
How many of these are yet to be released at the end of the year?
Well, we know Smoky Valley's around to play.
So thank you so much for your time today. If you have enjoyed this video and you have found it useful, please like and subscribe. In addition, head on over to Board Game Pix and follow Matt on Board Game Pix for some incredible content.
Thank you, Phil.
We're also on Instagram, Facebook and Twitter. Just search for Ludus Vulpes. Are you on those as well?
I am on Instagram and TikTok. You can find Board Game Pix there doing family game reviews.
And Matt does dances.
Yes, he does.
Thank you.
Thanks,
you all.
everyone.
Bye-bye.
See you soon.